Yo, what's going on, guys? Arekkz here. Welcome back to another video for Monster Hunter Rise. And after the recent 2.0 update, there is obviously several new Elder Dragons that have been added to the game, and of course, we've already spoken about their armor sets in the past, but alongside that, some of their weapons carry unique ramp-up skills or soul skills, and in this video, I wanted to go over all of those, just in the event that maybe you haven't taken the time to check them out. Also, hopefully, with the update 3.0 dropping ideally next week. I'm still waiting for Capcom to drop a trailer on that one, but if it is next week, then hopefully that brings even more of these skills that we can check out. That being said, if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated. If you've been using any of these actively in your builds, in your mix sets, let us know. But to begin with, let's start with Teostra. Teostra Soul. The description for this says that it increases damage dealt by blast explosions. Now, blast, obviously, I'm sure a lot of you guys are very much aware, but it works similar to other abnormal status types, but it is ever so slightly different. Think of it like each hit that you land has a chance to proc that status. Also worth noting, for those of you guys trying to do rampages and you need to apply those statuses, blast does also count, so it is actually quite useful. That being said, as you can see on the hit effect, in this case you get a small explosion whenever that procs. Now this is more efficient on faster hitting weapons, as is always the case when it comes to statuses, elements, stuff like that. So things like dual blades or sword and shield are fantastic for this. The Teostra sword and shield, by the way, is a brilliant weapon, but more frequent hits means more chance to build up the hidden status bar. However, unlike other statuses, the reason blast is actually quite nice is that it doesn't drop off quite as much as others. If you use things like sleep, paralysis, poison, they of course have this sort of a diminishing return effect whereby each time the threshold in order to proc that status gets larger, so typically you might see maybe 2 or 3 sleeps, paralysis, poisons per hunt. Meanwhile with blast, while the build-ups can take a little longer, you tend to see this proc slightly more frequently, so this ends up being a pretty nice thing to just work into your builds passively. Additionally, blast is also great at destroying monster parts, making it easier to farm certain parts a lot easier, and it can of course also cause the monster to flinch. So these are just some great reasons why this ramp up skill is actually quite nice for buffing an already nice status. More specifically, the Teostra Soul skill increases the damage of each blast tick by 20%, meaning that on the training dummy your blast tick can go from 100 to 120, and blast also deals different damage based on both high rank and low rank monsters, but it also deals different damage to the monsters based on their personal resistances to blast, as seen in the large monster notes under ailments. So you can of course use this to work out what is best used against the monsters, but it's fair to say blast is a pretty nice status, and of course if you do want to lean into that, leaning into Teostra Soul can definitely make it go a lot further. Moving on to Kushala Dowda Soul. Of course, this one, the description says that affinity gradually increases when continuously landing hits on foes. However, the skill functions a little differently than you might expect just from the wording. Rather than continuously building up affinity per hit, you actually get a flat 25% affinity from the first hit on the target, so you don't even need consecutive hits. Simply by landing that first hit, you already get the flat 25% boost, and then after 5 continuous hits, you then get an additional 5%, pushing that up to the cap of 30%. Following this, the buff then lasts 3 seconds, and any additional hits will reset this timer, so you effectively have a 3-second grace window to basically keep this buff active. So it is pretty easy to sort of maintain the uptime. However, it's just worth noting that if you compare this to, say, narwhal weapons, which already have 40% affinity baked in and higher sharpness, it's a nice idea, and definitely a nice skill that I've liked in the past. This was a skill that used to kind of run on armor sets back in Generations. It is a fantastic skill, but given that it is tied to the weapon specifically, it is perhaps a little lesser used. If they do, however, put this into armor skills, that'll be fantastic. And then finally, Camellias is probably the most obscure and sort of a least used one. Camellias Soul, where landing a hit will yield a small chance of boosting either health, stamina, attack, or defense. So the way this seems to work from our testing is that attacks, and it seems kind of random, sometimes it'll be instant, sometimes it's after several hits, but basically your attacks on monsters will grant you 1 of 4 buffs as follows. The attack buff from our testing looks like it gives you 15 raw, no matter what weapon. We did this testing across various different weapon types, things ranging from like dual blades to great swords to light bowguns to hunting horns, that kind of stuff, and across the board it always seems to be a 15 raw attack bonus. However, if you get the defense buff, you get plus 20 defense. If you get stamina, you get a sort of like a dash juice style effect. And for health, you get an instant heal of about 30%, which can have its uses, but it is worth noting that the game doesn't seem to work out whether or not you are at full health, because you can also proc this effect if you're at full health, which is kind of a waste. Interestingly, however, it does seem like there is some sort of cooldown on these, so it doesn't allow them to overlap. and this means that you cannot get more than one buff from this active at any time. The buffs also last for durations, so if you have the attack, defense, or the stamina buffs, it tends to last for around a minute. Meanwhile, the health one is instant, so in the event that you get like a random one that you don't want, like a heal, it might be a while before you actually get something like attack or anything like that. So while there's definitely some benefit to, if you are able to reliably get the attack buff, given that this does proc from a random pool of 4, then it's a little bit hit or miss. That being said, that was a quick look at the soul skills that are of course on the weapons. Again, I do like the concept behind this. Maybe these ones as they currently are not amazing. There's definitely some interesting utility, but I would love to sort of see Capcom expand on this a little bit more. Of course, we have an update coming with hopefully lots of new monsters. If they can sort of flesh this out even further, or maybe put some of these into decorations so we can get some slightly more broad use, then that could be kind of cool. But either way, that was a quick look at the soul skills. If you want to catch more from us at Arekkz Gaming, don't forget you can catch the guys 269 and Paradise Central streaming over on Twitch weekdays, playing a variety of games. If you guys want to jump in, tune in, watch, and even join in, then make sure you check them out. The links to those are in the description box down below. And of course, you can join the Discord to get involved in all of the discussions.